Welcome into Community Forum Family Edition. It's Mondays with Chuck and Dee Dee. Chuck and Dee Dee Bresnow are the heart and soul of Healing of the Heart Ministries, a ministry of reconciliation here in Lapeer. Chuck and Dee Dee, welcome back to WMPC.
Well, good morning, Greg.
Good morning, Greg.
Yes, great to have you here. And I said off the air, I said happy day after Easter, and you said it best, Dee Dee, happy day after Resurrection Day. And I like that a lot better because that's all about Jesus and not about the Easter Bunny for sure. So I trust you guys had a good Easter weekend.
Ooh, fantastic.
Good, that's good. Well, we're continuing a conversation that we started a couple of weeks ago. Our topic is practicing a spiritual formation in your marriage. And the first question I want to ask are, what are some roadblocks to couples being proactive in spiritual formation?
What are some roadblocks? Okay. Well, spiritual and emotional problems that have hindered a person perhaps their whole life, even negative thoughts, forms of abuse they've suffered, their reactions and responses may be coming out of that pain. And those things really need to be resolved. And, of course, that can be a journey. Some things happen instantly. But really getting help for those roadblocks will just make the rest of your life so much more fulfilling, rewarding, God-centered, and in your relationships with your spouse, your children, and anyone else he brings into your life, actually. Anger, depression, all of those things, God has answers. And we need to yield and surrender to him, give our whole heart to him, and trust him. And for many people, that's a very difficult hurdle. But, taking those steps and following the Lord and looking to him and really seeking out the answers makes a huge difference. It made a huge difference for us.
To be more specific, or I shouldn't say more specific, but I remember, we've heard people say to us, and it's kind of hard-hitting, gee, I prayed to God when I was a kid that my parents wouldn't get divorced, and they did anyway. And ever since then, I have been able to trust God a whole lot. And so, that's like a roadblock right there. Like, I can't pray to God, or I don't think he's going to answer my prayer. Maybe that's been for the last 40 years, and it affects their marriage.
Mm-hmm. And, I may be going to church and doing all the right things. I mean, we were doing all those things, but we couldn't connect as a couple the way that God would have us do because we had so many issues. And that's not to say, we're going to camp out on these things and blame others and all. No. We go through all that to get to the other side, which is freedom in Christ. And it's a beautiful place to be, and we've been experiencing it for many years now. Not that we're perfect or we never have a problem, but we are just blessed beyond measure. I just can't, and God answers our prayers like unbelievably. And this is available for everyone. This is not something, it can never happen to me, or I can never have healing from these things that I've suffered or the way I've interpreted them, or I can't get over the bitterness and forgive people. Those are all hindrances.
I'm so disappointed because I thought you guys were perfect. I thought you were the perfect couple. No, thanks for your candor. Sort of a follow-up question, and you guys touched on this. Why is it important for a couple to be on the same page spiritually, and what if they're not?
Okay, for many couples, this is not the case. We have to start where we are, then take the next step, so to speak. Many couples are not on the same page, and one may be more, and I think we touched on this the last time we spoke, but, we have to do what's right in God's eyes ourselves, and be an example. The Bible says, be an example of the believers, in word and conduct. Pray, pray, pray. If you're not on the same page, pray, 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 because God can make you one. And that just makes all the difference. And you're praying according to his will. And he says he hears us and will answer us. So
But maybe not answer you next week, right?
Well, no, maybe not answer. He didn't answer me next week. And he didn't, it took actually many years. But be steadfast. Be steadfast in what you know. Be steadfast in love. This is a hard thing for many couples because in our office we see many of the worst scenarios there are. Okay, so this is a huge thing, and we can't make a blanket statement on it even. But, we can have spiritual oneness, especially if we both are willing and both surrendered to the Lord Jesus Christ, and we've given him our whole heart. We want to do what's right, and we make a place for that. Like many of the couples that come that are marriage prep, they may have seen their parents having huge problems, and they don't want that, and they're willing to do whatever it takes to get there. And those young people, old people, whoever they are, have a lot of wisdom, and God meets them.
I don't know. I would say that I don't know that necessarily not on the same page, but it looks like one of the couple may be stuck, and they're on something really big that happened in the marriage, and it's really hurt them a lot, and they just aren't. They're just stuck there, and so when they, even if they're still going through the motions, they just feel like I don't know I'm just stuck in this area, and I can't get past it. And I've been praying and praying and praying about it, but it's just not working. And so that would be viewed by the other person as well, they're not going anywhere because they're stuck in this problem that they have. Whether it's a habit, could be an addiction, could be a sin issue, could be anything, but they're just stuck there and they can't get past it. So our job really is to try and help encourage them that you can get past this thing, and it will be for their good, for both of their good. Because, if I'm stuck in something, there's a huge roadblock. I might not see getting past it as anything good, especially if it means I have to forgive this other person. It's okay, if I forgive them, that's not helping me individually maybe. I may feel that that's not helping me if I forgive them. But saying, okay, like Diane, can we start, just take the next step, even if I don't think it may, in my finite mind, I don't think it's going to make a difference. But I'm trusting God that it is going to make a difference, and maybe I'm having a really hard time trusting them. And so we have to try and, build them up to get them to see that there can be a difference. So our job a lot is to encourage people. So we kind of say, well, we never give up on somebody. And no matter how hard it is or how difficult it looks at the outset, when they tell us what's going on in their marriage, we just say, okay, let's go on. Let's try and repair what's going on and move on from there.
Chuck and Dee Dee Bresnow are my guests. It's Mondays with Chuck and Dee Dee, and we're talking about practicing spiritual formation in your marriage. Now, we at 9 o'clock every weekday, we do a live prayer circle here, and we gather together, and we have a list of things, and people call in or email. And one of the items on our list is a couple that's in middle age. They've got kids. They both have careers, and they're drifting apart. And someone, or either one of them, or I don't know, someone that loves them has asked us to pray for them. This is kind of a silly question, but does the dynamic change between couples when children come along? And if so, what does that look like?
Oh, it definitely changes. We saw that in our lives, and we see that with our children and people we know. Your time is divided more. And I will say this, that busyness can be a curse, and it basically is a curse in our society because it takes time to love someone. It takes time to grow spiritually. It takes time to practice those things that we know should be priorities in our life. So we have to say no to some things to say yes to other things. And we may ask ourselves, is this, when we're presented with something to do, either we want to do it, someone's pressuring us to do it, the church needs it, whatever it is, that we're asking God, is this your will for me right now? Is this what you want me to do, or is this what I feel I have to do or I want to do, or is it something that I'm being pressured to do? Is it really your will? And I think, we need to ask ourselves, what are the most important things? What do we want to build into our family structure? What do we want our lives to look like with each other and before God? And I will say this, our view of God makes a huge difference. This is going back to the question before, but our view of God makes a huge difference in how we think. If we think that God is just going to lower the boom on us anytime we make a mistake, well, that is going to color the rest of our life. It's going to color how we live our lives. So our view of God needs to be the reality of who God really is. So loving God that he really is approachable. He's our real Father. He loves us no matter what. He loves us unconditionally. He accepts us unconditionally. He doesn't always approve of everything we do. He's our perfect Father. And when that becomes a reality in our hearts and minds, we're able to love other people.
Yeah, it could be having kids could really be a wonderful time.
Oh my, it is a wonderful time.
We look at these kids; they're like made in our image.
Kind of. We hope not too much.
Yeah, I think about that a lot.
But we have 8 grandchildren now, so
which is easier, having kids or having grandkids?
Pardon?
Which is easier, having kids or having grandkids?
Well, definitely having grandkids. Kids are great. We used to just watch them play was something we enjoyed doing together. We just, when our children were small, but yes, we wholeheartedly enjoy grandchildren.
We watch our grandkids watch their mother and dad,
yeah.
And they say things like, "Why are you guys doing that?"
That's great. Chuck and Dee Dee, go ahead.
Responsibility of, raising them, although grandparents have a huge influence, on grandchildren. It's a very, a thing where we can really help our grandkids really grow in the Lord, accept the Lord, because they have that affinity for their grandparent to begin with. Because
they may feel safer around grandma and grandpa.
Maybe, yeah, because we're not the.
They can open up to them a lot easier.
Mm-hmm. We're not the big disciplinarian all the time and everything, and so we're trying to, teach our grandkids Christian choruses and songs, and Father's still really small. And
they may have to talk about having grandparents on the same page.
Yeah, there you go.
With each set of grandparents.
Yeah.
Because we noticed with one of our kids that their parents think a lot. They have a lot of the same views about discipline and stuff that together.
Yeah, so that makes a difference.
Grandparents.
But that's probably unusual, and people have all kinds of challenges in their families that need to be worked through, and of course we help people with that too.
Yes. Chuck and Dee Dee Bresnow are my guests today from Healing of the Heart Ministries. We're talking about practicing spiritual formation in your marriage. So let's step back a little bit. How do you counsel engaged couples and newly married couples to begin to set a good, solid foundation for spiritual formation?
Okay. First of all, like I said, we work with them, when they come in, it's kind of like marriage prep 101, but it's deep. It's deep. It's going back and resolving a lot of things that may be hindrances for them in the future. and it's beautiful. It's beautiful to see, even months and years later, talking to these couples, and then after they have children and all of that. And we encourage them in a lot of different ways. We encourage them to connect as a couple every day, caring about each other's hearts, not just all the things that need to be done, and making that a priority. And that's hard to keep a priority. But if you miss time, okay, pick it right back up and go. And it helps if the man is really proactive about this, because a woman is basically, she's a responder. I mean, that's the idea. She's going to respond to his love towards her and his care for her, just like Christ and the church. The church responds to Christ's love. And that's what, the bride of Christ is the church. So we respond to Christ's love for us. So a woman is going to respond. And I'll tell you, when a man, really goes after a woman, not to pressure her, not to criticize her, but to love her and encourage her spiritually and pray for her and come alongside her when she's hurting and all these things, it brings oneness. And she'll be, we see their faces. The women are just like so excited that their husband wants to love them spiritually and emotionally. And we give them, questions to ask one another to help them initiate heart talk with each other. We say going about 10 minutes each way each day. You're going to care about your husband's heart. He's going to care about your heart. But if the husband drops the ball on this and he doesn't initiate, a woman is going to feel like, well, he doesn't care about me, and all of that, and then you get into the nagging and the pressuring, which does not work. You have to keep praying and stuff. But it's beautiful. It's a beautiful time. It floats my boat. I'll say that.
One of the other things, just when we get a premarital couple, and we have a sheet of paper, and on it it says, "What are your expectations in marriage?" And some of the first questions revolve around, like what church are we going to go to, or how are we going to pray together, things like that. And then, we just ask them, and usually they pick up on it real quick and try and detail out what their expectations are for them, not only for their spouse, but also for themselves. So looking at it from two aspects. Mm-hmm. What do I think about how it should be done for me, and also for us as a couple, and what should my spouse or husband, what do I expect him to do in that area? So we try and get those conversations going fairly early on in the discussions with them. We're not just talking about like budgets all the time and things like that, although
no, it's deep.
We go a lot deeper than that.
Yeah, but this is all different categories of expectations. What are our expectations for children? You really find out if you're on the same page or not. And it's amazing how many couples really don't even agree on what church they should go to before they get married. And we really encourage couples to really find a church that they both feel called to, that they both get. And we tell them, God has a place, and He's going to lead you together. Not I like going to this church, or I'm resentfully going to this church that you like to go to, but I don't really like it. Well, this is all part of your spiritual life, and when you have children, these things are very important.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that is so important. Hey, Chuck and Dee Dee Bresnow, my guest today, and we have time for one more question. I'm going to jump down because I don't want to leave this. I'm not sure when we'll get back to this specific topic, but with about 3 minutes left, how do we overcome regrets about not doing a good job at spiritual formation with our spouse and with our family? And Chuck, if you could answer this first, because I think a lot of times this applies to the husband who just doesn't feel, he looks back and he says, I really wasn't the leader I should have been.
Mm-hmm. I know, that's the issue. And the first thing I have to say to somebody, if you have a lot of regrets, first off, we can choose to maybe say, well, I have all these regrets. I didn't do things right, so I'm just going to give up. I'm just not even going to try, and just let it go. And I'd say that is probably the first mistake that we don't want to make, is just say we're going to just give up on it, because there always is a chance, and God will make a way. I don't want to seem trite, but when there seems to be no way, God will open up a door somehow to be able to do that. And so the first thing I'd have to do is say, okay, ask God for forgiveness for the regrets that things I didn't do right. Say, okay, Lord, I was wrong in doing, whatever I did, and I know it hurt my children. And Lord, would you choose to forgive me for these things, Lord, please, and ask forgiveness from the Lord. And the second thing I'd pray, Lord, please open up a door that I could somehow, unless the person, of course, is, deceased or something like that, but I still have to say these prayers and ask for forgiveness. I'm looking for that. And I'd ask the Lord, can you make a way to open up some kind of a door that would help us to be able to somehow let this person know that I regret what I did, and ask, and so that I could explain that to them or say that to them. Now, at first they might say no, or they may not want to hear it because they were so hurt by it. And on the other hand, we've even said this to our own kids. One time we said to one of our kids, we were wrong for hurting you in such and such a way. And they said, oh yeah, you were wrong in hurting us. And they named 4 or 5 other ways that we had hurt it real quick. Like, okay, would you choose to forgive us for that? And most people have forgiveness in their heart. Not always, but hopefully they do. And they can choose to forgiveness. So that doesn't mean that necessarily the situation will totally change overnight. But at least we've tried to start the process of humbling ourselves to this other person and being able to do that. And I think of so many times in the Bible, that men in the Bible especially have made huge mistakes in their life, and they asked God for forgiveness, and God did make a way eventually to do that. And we have to be open and think, okay, I have to look for that opportunity. And when it does show itself, I have to take advantage of that opportunity. Because some of the tendency might say, okay, I pray for an opportunity to maybe communicate to my child or my spouse that I've done this thing. And then when the opportunity comes up, I let it pass. Mm. We've seen that happen as well. Because a couple knows, even if they call us up for help and they come in, or they don't come in, or they think about it, and they're excited about it, or they think maybe I should do this, but then, we say, okay, you can come and say, in such and such a week, so they make a date, and then something comes up, something else, and they say, oh, I can't, it's like an excuse, I can't come in for this, so it's not as important as it should be. But really, we really think that maybe God is making an opportunity for you to do this. Are you going to take advantage of that opportunity or not? Just like if I have regrets about things. Mm. Am I going to take an advantage of that opportunity to say something right there on the spot? Or am I going to ignore that opportunity? So, but then even if that happens, okay, God, I was wrong for not taking advantage of that opportunity when it came open. Would you please forgive me for that and have another one open up? Yeah. And just keep hanging in there. Just keep hanging in there.
Yeah, I think the enemy tries to keep us stuck in the past. And, Paul said, forgetting the things that are behind. And he certainly had a lot to forget and pressing forward. I think that's so important. Well, we've got to leave it there. Chuck and Dee Dee Bresnow from Healing of the Heart Ministries talking about practicing spiritual formation in your marriage. Dee Dee, can you tell our listeners how they can get in touch with you?
They can go to healingoftheheart.net. We are on Facebook. Sometimes we get Facebook messages that way. Our number is 810-245-7045. And I will say more information will be coming out about a 5K race for Healing of the Heart Ministries that some friends of ours are putting on at the end of May. And it's specifically focused on suicide prevention, which, we do encounter from time to time in our office, and we try to help people work through those thoughts and things like that. So that's something that's coming up. But they can, yes, and then contact at healingoftheheart.net also is our email address.
Awesome. It's always a pleasure to talk to you Mondays with Chuck and Dee Dee. And let's plan to get together again in a couple of weeks, okay?
Sure. We love it.
All right. Thanks, guys.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
Chuck and Dee Dee Bresnow from Healing of the Heart Ministries talking about practicing spiritual formation in your marriage. If you'd like to hear this again or point a friend or maybe someone in your family toward this conversation, you can hear part 1 of this conversation. And also, I usually try to have these up on our website by noon, the day of. So you can check that out this afternoon, WMPC.org. Just click on Community Forum. Chuck and Dee Dee Bresnow, always a pleasure here on WMPC.